Mm.
which puts us in the overtime. It's a pretty easy transition. Being in the hair business with the world of COVID,
Mm.
I guess, what's it like? I mean, it seems like you've been in limbo for a good bit. How is it now? I mean, when you're meaning subsidization, you mean like PPP? I mean, how is it? How has this whole experience been?
Um, well, which direction should I go down first? Like the kind of the financial business side, or the social, like client
We're
side
trying to
that,
know about you, so it's you tell us the direction that's most interesting to you.
oh God. Well, um, I'll start with the business side. So so when we got shut down, so the thing is, the way that viruses travel is really bad for hairdressers and clients. And it's akin to like dentistry and other services where you're like face to face with a client for an extended period of time. So there's lots of potential for exposure. So when we were shut down, I was really grateful because I don't know, I think saving lives is important. And
Slight understatement, but
some people disagree with that, but you got to do what you can in the community. And uh, so getting shut down, the my business is, I have an LLC and an S corp, and then I have share renters who pay rent, and then I have income from my own share. So I was able to get unemployment through my S corp because I'm my own employee, and then I was also able to get a PPP loan. Discovered that the big banks were terrible to work with, so I went with a small banker. Um, so yeah, I think I might be leaving my big bank permanently for those reasons. Uh, the the subsidization was chaotic, confusing, and the main problem. I can't choose a main. There were a lot of problems with it that they want to get money out as soon as possible. So I get that there's a lot of chaos, but I think there are simple, common sense things that they could have done to structure these programs in a just a more streamlined fashion. So I'll just leave it at that.
I mean, it's
Um,
almost like planning's important.
that's a revolutionary idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like if you thought about something ahead of time, you might actually come up with a good way to deal with it.
I mean, wow, like that's mind blowing.
I mean, we haven't done it for a few years in this country, so I mean, like, maybe we'll do it again someday.
Exactly. Exactly.
So anyway, so
Um,
is basically a cluster of
it was a cluster. It was very confusing and scary. So anyway, we made it through the dark part, and then to go back into the salon and start taking clients again, you expect that there's some guidance based on science that the Department of Public Health or the Cosmetology Board would give us, and the guidance was very vague. There were two documents that were specific. One was broad things. The other one talked about, wearing masks. And in one paragraph, it said they were required. In the next paragraph, it said that they were recommended. And then face shields should be provided. But, provided, I mean, what the fuck does that even mean? If you have a face shield, like, do I provide a face shield for who and why and when should they ever wear one? So, there were a lot of problems with trying to figure out what rules were, uh, I mean, it was basically left up to the business side, which rules were important, um, and what you were going to do. Because, I actually emailed quite a bit the Department of Public Health, and finally got answer from the director, who said all of the guidance was strongly recommended. None of it was mandatory. So I'm like, I'm just gonna roll the dice and try to do the best I can, So, um, so it's like in the salon, it's a little weird. The service isn't great. You have to wear a mask. You can't have a complimentary beverage. Don't get a blow dry. You don't get, sometimes you don't get a shampoo. We try to get the clients in and out as fast as possible so that their potential for exposure is minimized, and the number of surfaces that they touch and the number of surfaces that we touch is minimized as much as possible. And everyone washes their hands as soon as they enter the building. We wash our hands between each client. We have and so, you know, it was just a matter of, me figuring this out with a lot of help from people who I trust, and people who know more about this than me, and then watching how other states were handling this. For instance, New York put out a 14-page document just for hairstylists and barbers, and that was super helpful to look at. But of course, that didn't come out until we had already opened. But luckily, I mean, a lot of the things I'm doing are the things that New York is requiring. So yeah, the main thing is just to, uh, prevent the spread of COVID, and hair comes secondary to that right now. I mean, you know, I guess hair is, it's not as essential as your life, right? So,
Unless you're Samson. I mean,
right.
that'd be like the one.
Yeah, the Greek god whose all
Yeah,
of
the
his
one.
strength was in his hair.
Is he Greek god, or was he Bible? Was he in
Oh,
the Bible, or was he Greek?
no. Oh, I don't know. I think he was, oh,
Either
yeah.
way, it's mythical.
Hmm.
Doesn't really matter, I guess. The one of my Mr. Pearson from Central Academy, when my brother was a student of his, once said, "No great work of fiction has ever been written by a committee." To which my brother said, "Well, the Bible." To which Mr. Pearson said, "Fair point," and we moved on.
That sounds like something he would say.
It's definitely in his historical wheelhouse.
Mhm.
But it touches a little bit on the leadership piece that's very interesting. I mean, like, for example, school guidance in this state got one page, whereas New York had like 70 pages. I'm sorry, Illinois had 70 pages of how we open a school. It's been
Mhm.
interesting to see through, the PPP program didn't need to be as shambolic as it was, right? I mean, it didn't
That's a
need,
great word.
yeah, it didn't need to be a complete mess. I mean, if you had individuals who were thinking about at least a plan A, let alone a B, C, or D, and then
Mhm.
wanting to step up and say, yeah, this one's important. We're not going to put no one but beef packers on our COVID team. We might put a scientist or two, and we might require masks, right? I mean, I went to the Hy-Vee today, and each time I saw someone out of their mask, I was like taken aback from it. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
Well, the mask is your personal liberty, right? It's your
Apparently.
personal choice, right? Which actually doesn't make sense, because as we understand liberty, it's your liberty ends at the moment that you cause harm to someone else. And this is why we have, you know, speed limits on the highways and drunk driving laws and every other fucking law that we have in the world. I mean, this is, wearing a mask is just a new one to add to the list of things we already know that we should be doing to keep other people safe. So yeah, I'm very frustrated with the lack of masking.
it is an interesting political wedge issue. There's a great on NPR Morning Edition, which I did not finish, but did start. There's a great discussion on the demographic shift within the Republican Party and its challenges of going whiter and older, and the unsaid part racist. But this whole, more importantly, doubling down on these are items that could have been pieces that we coalesce around with different approaches, and now it's like, yep, you're one side or the other. And masks is very interesting. It's these one side or the other.
Yeah.
It's like either you're a masker or you're, I don't know, hopefully in the 18%. I don't know. We'll see. One of your solutions, though, which is a study abroad piece, which I did think was very interesting, was I've been a very big supporter, and Mike Franken, who was the Senate candidate who lost out to Teresa Greenfield, who's running against Joni Ernst. When the national service piece, I've always been a big fan of saying you should do some sort of national service.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's interesting that we've been in a phase where service apparently means learning to kill people. Like there should be other services, right? Like there should be AmeriCorps, which seems like a good service, right? Teaching people, maybe policing, maybe more importantly, community mediators, someone that can, public health support persons. But you have to do it at least 500 miles away. Like you have to just at least leave.
Mm-hmm.
You can come back all you want, that's fine. But you have to leave for a year.
Yeah.
I've always had this sort of idea that, rich people aren't going to want to do it anyway. So as long as they pay for at least 10 people to do it, fine, you can buy out. You've just got to pay for 10 others. I suppose now with the 1% being the 1%, you need to be able to pay for 100 others. But you can buy out if you pay for 100 other people.
Right.
But just leave, get somewhere else, get a new perspective as you're identifying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Perspective is such a huge, it's a huge missing piece of the puzzle when it comes to young people growing up. Yeah.
Is this a cut against Ankeny?
Yep.
Phew.
No, Ankeny had a really good school. We had great teachers. There were a ton of programs. There's great sports. Like there's an art club. There's show choir. There are all these things, and facilities were great, and the books were great, and I learned a lot, and I had a great experience there. And then I grew up, and I learned that not everyone got that education. And so my first thought was like, oh wow, you don't know where the state of Delaware is. Or like, oh, you don't know like what you think Iowa is actually Idaho. And I'm like, what school do you go to? And then my next thought was, wow, I didn't learn any fucking thing about any other part of the world either. I have no idea. I have no idea about any other culture other than mine. And I had a very sheltered and very safe upbringing. So I'm thankful for that. But I also think that we can just do more for every school. I think there's more to be gained in that experience. Yeah.
Is a quick side note on Idaho. We actually have someone working with us from Idaho, and so we sort of joke that our headquarters is at Du Bois, Ottawa, and that way we just cover all concerns.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Boise? Actually, It's freaking cool. It's actually really cool. It's very, very similar to Des Moines in a lot of ways. The downtown, there's no hill once you get to the center of the town, so the Capitol complex is just flatter and it doesn't feel as big and prominent,
Uh-huh.
I feel like the Capitol building itself is smaller, but it's like it's right in there. There's great restaurants and bars. It was actually really nice, right on a river. I mean, it's actually a really fun little town. You know, they've got their own little Joaquin, they got their own little Ankeny. You know, they got their Joaquin Meridian, they've got their Ankeny, which I'm sure is somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically Meridian too. They merged them,
Mm-hmm.
but it was actually a really fun town.
Huh. Let's
Yeah,
put that on the list.
and the airport actually has free Wi-Fi, sponsored by U of I, except the University of Idaho, which
Oh.
is also these same colors, which makes me think maybe the airport needs to step their game up and have the University of Iowa pay for the freaking Wi-Fi so I don't have to do Boingo. Only people who've seen my Facebook feed once or twice every week while I've been traveling have noticed anything about my Boingo irritation at the airport. On the perspective piece, there's a perspective thing within, and I guess I clarify this in the white hair industry, which
Mhm.
you brought to my attention a number of years ago, which is actually really, really interesting, has always been one of the pieces that has been most intriguing about a lot of the really cool stuff you do. So when you said, most innovative failure, I had like a list of 10 that I was thinking you might come with, right? But you made a point a number of years ago about how 90% of the practitioners in the white hair industry are women and 90% of the wealth is held by men, as in like
Mm,
finding a hair product with a woman's name on it that
mm,
started as a hair product, right? Not like Mary Kay or L'Oreal or something that like became hair from lotion or skin or body soap.
mm.
There's like none. And
Yeah.
I never really thought about the fact I could not think of one female named product. It was a
Mm,
hair product in that industry.
mm.
Um, I ironically don't spend a ton of time on my hair unless her name is Prel. I don't entirely know a lot of female names, but um, that was very interesting. And I actually was almost more interested in some ways was in the black hair industry. It's completely inverted. There is not a women's hair product without a woman's name on it.
Mm,
But both of those in general, the
mm.
inequity of who's doing it and who owns it was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. The hair industry is perhaps maybe that in churches, like the most segregated industry that there is, and also, uh, um, sexist, really. Yeah. It's interesting. Like yeah, 90% or more of hair practitioners and on the cosmetology side are women, and yet when you climb the ranks and you become a education director, or you're a brand owner, or you're a distributor, um, or any of the positions of power, even a salon owner, um, those are disproportionately positions that are held by men. And then when it comes to white hair and black hair, that's another huge discussion we could talk about too. And it seems that there's a section for people of color and they seem to be very much marginalized. But and the higher you go up in the ladder, the more marginalized that they are. So for instance, at a beauty show, you might have 3 days of seminars, and the seminars for textured hair, or what we used to call ethnic hair, which is a really dumb word because everyone has an ethnicity. Those were always held like on the last day when everyone's already going home, and they're in a wing, in the conference center that's really far away from everyone else, and it's you know, by the foot files, and that's really fucked up. It's like to do hair for people of color is a special extra thing, that is outside the realm of what is normal, right? um and but then you know I mean, there are a lot of there are a lot of things that I could say about that. I mean, then you think about, would you want someone to do your hair who doesn't have your type of hair? And then you can see how the cycle is self perpetuating. And maybe that's okay. Have we accepted that this is okay? Like, I mean, if you were a person of color, do you care to go to a white salon to get your hair done? Is this a problem we should solve? You know?
When I
Um,
lived in DC, I did go to the barbershop down the street one day, and number one, they all looked at me like I was completely freaking crazy when I walked in. This was a long time ago. DC, you now have like white people walking dogs at 11 o'clock picking up trash on 14th Street and U, which is like blew my mind. It's like, I don't know what we're all doing here right now, but whatever. But when I walked in, they were both confused as to if I was in the right place. And then no one had any scissors. And so they were trying to sculpt my hair with clippers, to which point I was like, okay, I'll drive to Bethesda. I hear what you're saying. Fine. So I'm instead drive to Bethesda and let cost cutters cut my hair.
yeah.
But the wealth inequity is actually very interesting. Like even just within the white industry, the sexism is impressive. I mean, forgetting just the racial issues, how is it you can end up with such inequity gender-based when it is just a 10-to-1 both ways?
Yes.
How does that happen? How do you stop that?
Yeah. Well, so I'll tell you a story. So this is the moment. I think I've told you this story. This is the moment that I realized that that there was a huge problem that was really difficult to solve. So I've always been trying to, achieve the next level in my career. So I'm at a party in New York City, the Ace Hotel after Fashion Week, and all the best hairdressers in the world that are in town are there. And then also it's networking for distributors and everything. And so I'm there and I'm talking to someone who I admire very much, and he is the leader of a kind of a social media, not even a social media, just a hairdresser media conglomerate. And he created a document several years ago that really inspired me. So I was eager to get to know him, and I just happened to be standing next to him, and I was talking to this other gentleman, and who was also a pretty well-known hairdresser. So us three are chatting, and then a new guy comes into the circle, and the guy who I really wanted to talk to introduces him to me, and the guy says, "Hey, I think I know you. Did you go to that show, or were you on stage or something?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, how do I know this guy? How have I met him? And then the guy who I'm really interested to talk to says to him, "Oh, no, she's not the one you want to talk to. It's him. She's just pretty." And then we all laughed because it was meant as a joke, and it was meant as a compliment. And he definitely was not trying to put me into he wasn't trying to diminish me because I was a woman. This is just how we are. This is just how humans are, right? And then I looked around the room and I realized for the first time I was surrounded by men. This is a hair event, a female-based industry, Fashion Week, right? Mostly, and I'm surrounded by men, and I thought, there is not there. You can't just say, okay, well, women are choosing to stay home with their kids. Women are choosing to have families. Women are choosing not to advance their careers at the same level that men are, and that's why women aren't here. There's more than just like a biological or a socially conditioned difference between women and men. There is something there beneath the surface that's really hard to like. It's hard to like pull into the light and like root out. And then it made me think about the medical field and how there's quite a few more nurses who are women than doctors, right? And medical administrators, you know. So again, it positions, you know, at the kind of the higher ranks of the medical industry, mostly held by men. It made me think about the education industry as well. A lot of teachers are women, but the principals are men, superintendents are men, school board is, you know, it. So I think it's, you know, I think it's exemplary in the hair industry, but I think we see it everywhere in life. And what the fuck? I don't know, Chris. I don't know. I don't exactly know how to fix it, other than, you know, to keep doing what we're doing. Yeah, keep doing what we're doing. I think the Me Too movement, you know, which was really mostly about, you know, sexual assault, you know, started off, but I think it's 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 really emboldened women to step into positions of power and feel comfortable there. And it's just gonna, I think, just take some getting used to for both women and men.
What is the percentage or breakdown between heterosexual versus homosexual men within the ownership of the hair industry? I mean, is there a similar disparity there?
That's interesting. I do feel like I do feel like there are definitely more an inordinate number of straight men in positions of power than there should be, based on the overall, you know, numbers of homosexual, heterosexual people who are in the industry. Yeah.
So of the three dudes in the circle and you in that circle, like what were they all heterosexual, homosexual? What was the breakdown there? I mean, was it
They're all straight.
interesting?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Seeing hair was trying to justify it as, you know, something else, but no, you're killing me on my only other thought there. That's very interesting how, because how do you, like in the hair industry, how would you actually do that? How would you take cracks at that? I mean, is it really just sort of, I know a lot of, you've looked into a lot of things, if I'm understanding correctly, of really building your own products or building your own pieces that you can actually market and sell and own and fully own the underlying assets of the underlying assets of the everything from the capes to the hair products to the well, to be fair, Knight does great stuff. Sorry. Unless you're just white labeling their stuff. But is there another way to do it? I mean, is that really what it takes? Is you just have to have enough people?
Yeah, I think women in general need to know that that is an option and that it's not as difficult as they may think it is. That the person they see on stage is not that different than them, and the person who developed that product is not that much smarter, maybe not smarter, maybe not smarter at all than them. And that the courage and the bravery it takes to take risks like that to you know, drive to the next level is within them already. So, and then to to know that is actually, I feel like it's just something that it's kind of beat out of us. Not, that's a bad way to say it, but like growing up as a woman, you're not really encouraged when you try to lead, because it's seen as bossy, it's seen as bossy, and it's not really encouraged in women. So I think that's a problem that we all as a society, when we're raising kids, I think we need to work on that. And if you're already grown and you're a woman, I think you need to recognize that your desires and your beliefs are really not as difficult to achieve as you might have been taught that they were, or they're worthy, a worthy thing to do. And then I think it would help to have men who are in positions of power advocate for other women. I think that's a great way to kind of, take a shortcut. I've building my space, I've dealt with a lot of contractors who are mostly men. And I find it interesting that when I speak to them and ask them a question, I get a response that's very different than when my partner, Toby, would speak to them and ask them the same question. And I think just in general, I think, I think we wonder like, oh, does she really need that? Or is she just being whiny? She asked me to do this one thing, but she's not going to know if I don't do it. I think that's the feeling like, she's calling me and now she's ragging on me because I got to do this thing. I think that's how men respond to women in positions of power often. Whereas if a man said, no, I need this thing and I need it done this way, I think a man is more likely to be like, okay, he needs the thing done and he needs it done this way. If that makes any sense. But I've also had to learn how to rephrase the way I speak. So it's not like men are holding us back and that's the only problem. I think I held myself back as well. I was also very much afraid to have tough conversations when I'm dealing with these contractors, because I'm afraid that I will get a pushback that I don't know how to deal with. So I also have to learn just as much as everyone else. So.
I had a friend who would often order in restaurants and say, may I have? And she had a mentor who said, no, hon. She said, I would like. And it is very interesting, some of those very subtle little pieces of, I would like X, please, opposed to, may I have, please. Those subtle power dynamic switches. I mean, obviously, as you know, I have a daughter who, now that I'm actually trying to say this, I'll feel like a JA for not remembering. She's 7 now. I've always identified that I hear 6 to 9 as that time period where oftentimes girls switch from believing they can do anything to shortening the horizon of their potential. So it's actually been aggressively on my mind of how do we fundamentally rephrase all of those accidental limiters that we put in front of her. I'm reminded as you're speaking, my mom, who, her aunt was one of the early engineers at Iowa State, graduating in '66. Like, there's no other women there besides her. And my mom, when she got out of Michigan in '80 or '81, still very few women. And so at Iowa State, she went up and helped set up this female engineer only floor in the towers, where they would run like a fraternity and share tests and do study groups together. And there's one whole floor that's just women engineers. Well, their test scores went up like significantly after a few years, to the point where this university said, well, this is an unfair advantage. We have to shut this down,
Mm-hmm.
which was the last time she ever gave 1 hour to Iowa State, was when they went and killed the engineering women's floor
Wow.
because it was actually producing results.
Wow.
And I now hear the Iowa State president, who's now a woman, speak about things that they want to change at Iowa State. And I still don't see that appreciation of the fundamental power imbalance disruption, which disappoints me. Simpson College hired a new president who is a labor lawyer by origin, who has run a institution that is primarily online education, which right now is possibly the best hire you could have accidentally ever made, because this was made before the COVID thing happened. She's possibly the most impressively perfect pick they could ever have, and the first thing they say is our first female president. Who gives a shit?
Mm.
She's so completely qualified in every other category.
Mm.
And that's what you put on the marketing,
Mm.
which I fear myself reverting into some of those subtle limiters as I'm trying to raise my daughter. I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing the right thing. I mean, there are stages of there's stages of growth, right? So you know, maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, it would be very appropriate to introduce her as the first female, because that would be revolutionary, you know. But now we're in a different stage where it should be normalized. It shouldn't even, the gender shouldn't even really be, you know, thought about. It's just, this is a human being who's done all these amazing things, and that's what you want to talk about. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure entirely the point of these was to solve every one of the world's problems. I mean, I'm sure we got about 70% of them done. Lindsey, thank you for talking with us tonight. Hopefully we can have everyone together and hand out, I still owe you an unbroken trophy.
I think I was the one who broke it.
I will actually sell the story on record. No, what happened was we're sitting there at the lift, and Dwala had a group came in, and I'd put the trophies down. Again, for those who haven't seen the trophies yet, they are styrofoam from Michael's that I put together with toothpicks and Gorilla Glue. And so they're garbage, but they're exciting. I mean,
they're beautiful. The shape, the form is wonderful. I like them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to aspire to.
Mm-hmm.
So this freaking Dwala group is sitting up there, and one of them just like picks them up and like bangs it off the other and breaks the top. And I go over and it's like, dude, the fuck are you doing? Right? He's like, oh, well, I just didn't know. I was like, what are you, 5? So like you pick up a glass and like throw it till it breaks? I mean, like what was the idea here?
Uh-huh.
And of course he had none. And well, I won't get into the rest of my Dwala pieces, but no, they broke your award, and it really fucked me off. It was like, that was expensive styrofoam, dickhead. But I'll get you a fixed one as soon as we can get out and meet in person once the COVID stops getting us. So anyway, Lindsey Mollenhauer, thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Chris. All right.